It's a good morning to you. Welcome to Asake Online. This is the Breakfast Club. My name is Zenzele Ndebele, and every day we bring you different topics, different programs where we discuss about a lot of issues that are happening in our community. We still remind you to keep safe. COVID is real. We are losing friends and relatives and families every day. I'm sure by now you know someone who has been affected by COVID, either who's sick, who has recovered, or who has died. So we encourage people to maintain social distancing. If it's possible, please stay at home. And I know we go and queue for many places, at the banks, at hospitals. Sometimes in the city of Bulawayo, we don't have water. We have to go to boreholes. Please make sure that we keep a distance and always wear your mask and sanitize, because what I've discovered is that the mask introduction, after 5 minutes or so, and I've seen usually people still organize meetings and conferences, and usually conference lapa lunch, no one wears a mask. Please remember, the mask is the only vaccine or only medication that we have for now. I mean, with the state of our hospitals, definitely as Zimbabweans, we need to make sure that we social distance. We need to make sure that we wear our masks, because this thing is real. Anyway, today in our program, we'll be talking to the president of MRP, Mthwakazi Republic Party, Mqondisi Moyo. We want to know a lot about his party, about his programs and his activities. We've heard a lot about MRP, and namhla sifuna ukuzwela emlonyeni webiza. From the horse's mouth. Baba, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Mr. Zenzele, for hosting me here at Sites News on Morning. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and my first question to you, MRP, is it a political party? Is it a cultural organization? Is it a social movement? What is MRP?
Mthwakazi Republic Party is a political movement that was formed and launched here in Bulawayo on the 11th of January 2014 at Presbyterian Church. We formed MRP with the realization that all along there have been some political parties who reckon that the first political party, that is the mother of all political parties in Zimbabwe, is ZAPU. And after ZAPU, around 8 August 1963, ZANU-PF split from ZAPU to form what is now called ZANU-PF. During those days, those political parties which were there were fighting against the white colonial Sekia up to the time they attained their independence around in 1980 through the Lancaster Agreement of 1979. Having said that, around 1980 or soon after 1980, when Zimbabwe had attained its so-called independence, we then saw the current government of ZANU-PF led by Emmerson Mnangagwa, though then led by the late Robert Mugabe, unleashing a Kukuraundi genocide in Matabeleland and Midlands between 1983 and 1987. Where more than 20,000 people, innocent Matabeleland people, were killed, and probably hundreds of thousands that disappeared, maimed, raped, and done all those sorts of things that we can never think of. Now, it was after those brutalities and killings that around 1987, the so-called Unit Accord was signed on 22 December 1987 between Robert Mugabe and the late founding nationalist Joshua Nkomo. Many people had thought that maybe through the 1987 Unit Accord agreement, probably the problems or the woes of the people of Matabeleland have been solved. But alas, you also reckon that many people refused to take part in that accord. I will talk of the ZIPRA-cadres, the so many ZAPU members refused to take part, saying, Unkomo sekinywe is ZANU-PF. And many people used to believe that the so-called Intercourt Agreement document was a document which has got something which is tangible for the people of Matabeleland and Midlands, alias Mthwakazi. But alas, it was never to be. That document, I always call it a naked document because it's just a document with only 12 points, which talks of ZANU-PF and Robert Mugabe. It doesn't talk about Joshua Nkomo and the peoples of Matabeleland and how the Kukura-Undi wars were going to be resolved. It is, again, that it is in that same arrangement where most people used to think that it is written down in black and white that Joshua Nkomo was to be the next president after Robert Mugabe. And the other belief was always that the national chairman of ZANU-PF should always come from ZAP. Alas, again, that was also a gentleman's agreement because the 12-point document doesn't provide for that, for those two clauses that I mentioned. Why am I raising all this? It is because I want to explain more about why Mthwakazi Republic Party was formed. It is again before the signing of that Unita Code around 22 December 1987, when around 20 November 1987, a building was commissioned in Harare by Robert Mugabe and given the name Karikamombe Arcade, which meant we have castrated the bull, because we are all aware that ZAPU used to have the bull as its symbol, while ZANU-PF used to have its cock as a symbol. Now, some of us continue to argue and say, if it is true that ZANU-PF and ZAPU are in true unit, that is there to provide a lasting solution for all the Zimbabweans, including Shona people and Ndebele, why is it that up to this day, there is still a cochlear symbol at the ZANU-PF headquarters in Harare along Rotten Row? That question is still unanswered up to this day. I'll then pass through that phase of ZAPU, ZANU, and 1987 Accord and talk about the coming in of MTC around 1999 and 2000, where most people know it very well that MTC was meant to be led by Ubaba, the late Gibson Spanda. But the tables were turned against that decision on the notion that Shonas were not going to be a party that is led by Ndebele from the minority group, hence the elevation of Morgan Tsvangirai. Many people had thought again that MDC was a party which was going to be different, totally different from ZANU-PF. In their first 5 years until the split of 2005, indeed they tried to prove and show a national outlook, because even the top leadership of MDC, where Morgan Tsvangirai was the leader, was mainly from Matabeleland. But it happened that around 2005, a split was initiated from ZANU-PF, who gave Morgan Tsvangirai the advice that your top six leadership is too powerful for you. Hence, in my party, ZANU-PF, I always give these people useless positions. They are always deputies. So these people, when you take over, they will simply turn the tables and take over the run of the party and then revenge to what we did against them during the atrocities of the 1983 to 1987. Some of us by then were not yet in politics, but were following from a distance the happenings of the political situation in Zimbabwe. We then realized around 2006 2006 and after we had came across the 1979 Grand Plan, how ZANU-PF was scheming against Matabeleland and Midlands people, alias Mthwakazi. Still within those 2 years or so, we then again came across a document called the Code XXX by MDC, which by then was led by Morgan Tsvangirai, now led by Nelson Chamisa. We spoke which is a replica document from the 1979 Grand Plan, which was talking much about Tsvangirai having managed to penetrate Matabeleland by providing about 70,000 Shona settlers to come and get jobs here and vote for his party. Not only that, and have some Shona candidates that he he was going to give them Ndebele surnames, and our people unknowing will vote for those people thinking that they are Ndebeles, yet they will be Shonas. He even gave in that document the example of Senator Gombami at Mpopoma, by then who had used the surname Dube. After reading that document for so many times, and at the same time reading 1979 Grand Plan, we then saw that ZANU-PF and MDC are just a replica of each other, who are there to torment our people and recolonize us, as the whites used to do. It is then around 2013 and to early 2014, like I said earlier on, that we realized and said the only permanent solution to the Matabeleland wars will be to form our own pro-Matabeleland political party that will call Mthwakazi Republic Party, that has existed from that date of 11 January 2014 up to now. Our mandate as the Mthwakazi Republic Party is fighting for self-determination. One may ask, what do you mean by
so let me, I'll come back to you on that one.
Okay,
but
okay.
there are two, before we talk about self-determination, my question to you is, people have, I've seen a lot of people saying you're tribalist.
Thank you.
What's your reaction to that? Are you tribalist?
Thank you. Thank you. Tribes were created by God, if I may be allowed to put it that way. Then lists and isms are always created by the enemy or the oppressor. In this regard, how can the MRP be called a tribalist party when it is a party which comprises of more than 13 tribes that are found in Matabeleland and Midlands? Here I refer to Tonga people, Nambia, Kalanga, Soto, Venda, Xhosa, Abasangwe, and many of these tribes that are found here. And it is so said that the so-called national parties, who are regarded not to be tribalist like ZANU-PF and MDC, nationally or in their outlook, they appear national, but their deeds reflect tribalism more than what they accuse us of. So in a nutshell, I'll simply say that Mthwakazi Republic Party is a national political party in the Mthwakazi context, not in Zimbabwe context.
Okay, yeah, that's the other question. You talked about self-determination. Are you, as a party, are you advocate? You've talked about, Mthwakazi in Zimbabwe. Are you advocating for federalism or secession?
Thank you. I will say we are not advocating for secession, neither are we advocating for federalism, but we are advocating for self-determination, or what we call restoration. Why am I using these two terms? Secession will appear as if we are doing something which is illegal, whereas self-determination is even enshrined in the United Nations Charter, where a country which is oppressed by another country, especially like our situation where we experienced the genocide, it is number one trump card that United Nations always use to say a country that was attacked by another country is the rightful candidate for self-determination. So in this case, we are not fighting or lobbying for secession or federalism, but we are simple lobbying or fighting for self-determination. If you allow me, I can explain further to make the listeners to be aware of what we are talking about, because we've got all the historical facts that are there which show or which proves to all and sundry that indeed we are fighting for self-determination. I'll refer you to the scramble of Africa and colonization of Africa around 1890 or prior then before, where there is what we called Berlin Conference of 1870, where Matabeleland was already amongst the League of Nations around 1870. I can give you even 100 years for you to Google and do a research. You will never find Mashonaland in that map with League of Nations of 1870, Berlin Conference, where Mashonaland is reflected or highlighted. But Matabeleland was already there as a nation in 1870. It then happened that around 1890, when there was scramble for Africa, when the whites wanted to invade Matabeleland, they gathered that Lopengula was a strong leader, a strong king with his warriors that cannot be easily penetrated. So what did the whites do? They then went via Amasingo to Harare, where they defeated the people of Mashonaland without a fight. And then after defeating the people of Mashonaland around 1890, around 1891, that's when the whites established their own state newspaper by the name Herald in Harare, which is used up to this day. It took them 3 years to come and colonize Matabeleland. That was in 4th November 1893, where they came with around 652 Shona batsmen who were accompanying them. And a fierce battle took place at Katate, which is just a stone throw away from Bulawayo, where more than 6,000 warriors of King Lopengula perished fighting against the whites, whereas the 652 Shona batsmen fought from the whites' corner. And up to this day, there are still some graves for the whites and the Lopengula warriors. And after Lopengula got wind of that his warriors have been defeated, he then ordered the warriors that he was with here in Bulawayo to burn down his palace at a place behind North Lee, where there is now the modern State House. I think you will reckon that where there is the modern day State House is where King Lopengula's palace used to be. So he said, I will not allow these people to even have a trace of where I was residing, hence let's burn down this, of which they did, and he disappeared. Hence the song, Kudala kwakunganje umhlaba uyaphenduka kwakubusa umambo lomzilikazi sawela kuchangani saguqa ngamadolo inkosi Lopengula yasinyamalala. It then happened that around 1894, after defeating us, they then established another state newspaper, this time by the name The Chronicle. We cannot have a country with two state newspapers. That is totally impossible. So, having said that, I'm trying to bring about some historical facts that will prove to all and sundry, even to the doubting Thomases, that what we are looking for, what we are advocating for, is not a myth, but a reality.
So let me come in there and say, in 2018,
yes,
you contested the parliamentary elections.
Yes.
But what I found interesting was you contested the parliamentary elections and not the presidential elections.
Thank you.
And the question was why?
Thank you. We not only contested for the parliamentary, we even contested for the local authority elections. That question that you have just asked, I will respond to it by saying, first things first, there is what is called political power or political clout. We realized that many people believe that in order to dethrone ZANU-PF, you have to start by removing Emmerson Mnangagwa as the president. But the problem doesn't lie with removing Emmerson Mnangagwa as the president. It lies with who controls what, from the local authority to the constituency level. You realize that we have got quite a number of resources in Matabeleland that our people are not in control. One may ask why. The answer is simple. ZANU-PF is in power. Our people are not in power. In that regard, they are not in control of their resources. So we were trying to come up with a strategy of gaining all the ward councils that ZAPU of 1985 used to Ghana, as well as the parliamentary seats that ZAPU of 1985 used to collect, so that at the end of the day, our people will have what we call the political power, which eluded them. when the late founding nationalist Ubaba Joshua Nkomo signed the 1987 Unit Accord, because to us, that was the time when ZAPU surrendered its political power and political control in Matabeleland. So in that regard, we're simply trying to announce that it all starts with political power. Without political power, you back and back until cows come home, but no one will listen to you.
Okay, we know that how the elections went, but we are moving to 2023.
Yes.
Do you intend to still use the same strategy?
Thank you so much for that question. Though the question is rather tricky, but I'll try to answer it as per the demand. It's only that lockdown has really affected us so much, because we had our 5-year plan, which started from 2018, thereabout, to 2023, which was going to be 5-year plan. In that 5-year plan, we had laid down all the stages or the phases that as a party would want to go through. Stage number 1, politics is a game of numbers. And on another note, politics is a Greek word which means people. It means that without people, you cannot talk of politics. So we had then said, what we need to do, especially after the learning curve of 2018 elections, we need to build structures all over Matabeleland and Midlands, alias Mthwakazi, to make it a point that we have got structures up to cell level, whereby in all our territories, everyone is singing MRP, MRP, or Mthwakazi restoration. Then after that, we then said the next stage will be, we'll go around the whole of Mthwakazi after having all those structures set, making sure that we have some, rallies addressing our people, sharing with them our ideology of self-determination, and trying to restore what I can say. Mthwakazi is known to be a nation that doesn't believe in fear. But you know what the genocide of 1983-87 did to our people. Our people are now living out of fear. So the other reason was for us as MRP to try as much to remove that fear out of our people, to say, if you are the very people through Zipra who made Ian Decker Smith to say, if I can get an army like Zipra and Mqondisi Moyo, I can conquer Africa from Cape to Cairo within a short space of time. Then where has that bravery gone? Because I've always laughed at ZANU-PF and said, Ian Decker Smith never mentioned ZANU and ZANLA, because to him, they were just a walkover. They never gave them a torrid time. So when I say it was all about, or it's still all about us removing a fear out of our people, we mean to say we are known to be a brave nation, whereby no one will be allowed to just come to our territory and do as he or she pleases, just because he is riding on the crest that he is in power or is the majority. So in that regard, we are saying the other angle was for us to go around and educating our people about the importance of defending themselves using the rights, which some of them are even enshrined in the current Zimbabwe constitution, even if it's a flawed document. Then finally, I would say within that 5-year plan, we had also laid down the phase that we had thought will take our struggle to the next level, which is the phase of international lobbying. And then if you want, I'll then explain how we wanted to do the international lobbying.
The first, when we started, I asked you whether Mthwakazi was a pressure group or a political party. The reason why I asked you is that normally I see on social media if there is a conflict in terms of employment, recruitment, people say, where is MRP and all those kind of things. So why, and yet when it comes to voting, the people don't then vote for MRP. Why is it like that?
Thank you so much. I think people shouldn't judge MRP using the results of the 2018 election. Why am I saying that? To answer your question is simple. ZANU-PF started to rig Zimbabwe elections in 1980. You reckon what Margaret Thatcher said in 1980 before the announcement of the April elections. He said the one who is going to win is not the one who is going to rule, because they anticipated Joshua Nkomo's victory. I think you have also, because of the work that you are doing, you have also realized that it has since emerged that the ballot papers of 1980 were even flown to UK, and some of them were thrown into the rivers, because it is anticipated highly that Joshua Nkomo had won. Some people may think that ZANU-PF started to rig MDC. No, it started to rig elections as early as 1980 through the assistance of Britain. And why am I raising this question? Some people think that in 2018 it's only Nelson Chamisa and his MDC who were rigged. We also say we were rigged, one or the other, because the other stumbling block to us or challenge was that we contested about 95 local council seats between Matabele and Nikens, and 34 MPs. And what hit us most was that we didn't have resources, as we are a self-funding party. So in most of these stations, polling stations, we never had polling agents or observers. Because look, ZANU-PF and MDC have taught our people that politics is all about money. So without you enticing them or trying to incentivize them using monetary issues, they will never come on board to voluntarily support you. So in that regard, I mean to say, on the aspect of us being a pressure group, I have always asked people, what is a pressure group? And if people label us as a pressure group, then the $1 million question is pressurizing for who? Because in any case, politics is all about putting a pressure to someone. You cannot challenge your political opponent without putting a pressure. No wonder why MRP is only party in the history of Zimbabwe politics, probably after 2000, since the formation of MDC, which will be always visible with or without elections. What does that prove? It is a sign that we are not an electioneering political party, but we are a party that will be there for people to tackle their problems that we feel can only be resolved when Mthwakazi attain its independence. In that regard, I am simply trying to prove a point that whether they call us a pressure group, but I have given my straightforward answer, we are a political party. So we are putting pressure on the current ZANU-PF regime because they are the ones who are ruling.
So currently we are, there are no elections, but Zimbabwe is always on election mode. Yes. What are some of the activities that you're doing and the communities on a daily basis?
Thank you. Like I said earlier on, lockdown has hit hard on us, but we had a lot of programs, including the building of structures, like I said. And the other program that MRP is doing, like you asked earlier on, saying we always see you on social media whereby you'll be trying to address some issues that will be affecting people here and there. You realize that recently, some few months back, we were at Chapo along Matopo, Akes Road, where these Shona guys came and tried to mine at a place which is a sacred area. It is our team, MRP, which went there to stop that nonsense by these Shona people to say you cannot mine here. We have been to Escotini, where those 10 miners or so were trapped, and where I believe maybe up to this day they haven't been retrieved because the government of ZANU-PF gave a deaf ear to those people, to the families of those affected people. Yet while it's on the same token, around Mtasa and this other area of Mashonaland, a similar thing happened and the government took over. It is us as MRP who have been making noise to say all these inequalities that are affecting our people should be addressed, and we cannot wait for elections in order for those inequalities to be addressed. We can address them, I mean, as long as we feel we need to take a part. Also, you reckon that sometime last year there was a situation whereby during the lockdown, Mnangagwa had announced that police are to demand pass letters whenever they want to get into town. And to us as MRP, we then felt, no, the government of ZANU-PF is taking advantage of people because that thing is unconstitutional. And alas, it was around 29th of July when the High Court judge ruled that the demand of letters is unprocedural and unconstitutional. So we then petitioned the Zimbabwe government through its Minister of Home Affairs, Minister Kazembe and Godwin Matanga, to challenge them, and you copied that letter which I signed to Emerson Mnangagwa and other stakeholders to say this demand of pass letters to the citizens is unlawful and hence it should be stopped. And I can confirm to you that Kazembe and Godwin Matanga, Commissioner General, came to Rose Kembu and they stopped that the demand of pass letters is indeed unprocedural and unlawful. And our people were then allowed to freely move in and out of town without being harassed and tormented. Because on the other hand, the soldiers and the police took advantage of that exercise. In other instances, you hear that they will be torturing these people, making them to do some exercises. At other instances, made to be eating some small stones and doing all sorts of things, even to make them pay bribes. We then stopped that, successfully stopped that. Again, you reckon that along 6th Avenue and around behind Hyper, where there were these designated points where these private combis always used to ferry people to different locations. The police have been in the tendency, probably in the past 2 or 3 months, of smashing the windscreens of the private combis. We intervened again, and I even petitioned the same ministry, the Home Affairs, where we said the police service charter and the current constitution of Zimbabwe under police service says the police are there to secure and to secure the citizens and protect their property. And then we say the smashing of windscreens is now brutality to the property of the citizens by the people who are supposed to be protecting them. And as I speak, one guy was a victim where his combi was smashed. We then took him to Trilor, where the officers there used their own monies from their own pockets, about $70 to repair the windows or the windscreens of that combi. And as I talk to you today, they still want me at Rose Kembu police station, where they need my own statement against what is happening and what I said, because the Minister of Home Affairs have since issued a statement that the smashing of windscreens of the combis is indeed unprocedural and unlawful. They even said the errant police officers will be punished for doing that. All that is through the work by MRP.
Yeah, maybe as we go to a close, I mean, one of the things that I always like to ask is, the Constitution of Zimbabwe says Zimbabwe is a unitary state.
Thank you.
And you have talked that you want to restore a separate state.
Yes.
How do you intend to achieve that in a country that says it's a unitary state?
Thank you so much. That party or that clause, which is, I think it's the preamble of the Constitution, which says Zimbabwe is an unitary state, I have always laughed at it. For your own information, I participated in the initial stages of the constitution making process around 2010, but I was fired clandestinely with my long-time friend, you know him, the late Kobeka Ntube, because we belong to Zulu. We were fired after the 3 formations of, ZANU-PF and 2 formations of MTC, where the main actors in that copper constitution-making body, had even announced that when we go out for the outreach programs, we go out as COPAC, not as organizations. But alas, to our surprise, excuse me, we were fired. Why am I bringing this point? I'm trying to say that constitution, in as much as they said it was a people-driven constitution, to me and other people, we always say it was a three political party negotiated document like the Lancaster Agreement of 1979 and the 1987 Intercourt. Why? Because the preamble which says Zimbabwe is interstate was solely put by the people of Mashonaland, knowing that one day people of Mashonaland will stand up and demand their own country. And you reckon that devolution of power, which is on the chapter 14 of the Constitution, haven't been implemented up to this day. Why? Because mainly it came from the people of Mashonaland and migrants, citing that they are not benefiting in their own resources. And in that regard, no wonder why that section says devolution of power will be implemented when the right time comes. I have often asked people to say, when is the right time, or who deems the time appropriate? So to me, that preamble of it was all about to silence Mthwakazi people, never to claim for their self-determination. But to just summarize that, I will simply say Zimbabwe independence came even if Ian Douglas Smith had his own constitution. By the end of the day, the black people, particularly Zapa and Zipra, liberated the people of Mashonaland. So in that regard, where there is a constitution which says Zimbabwe is interstate, or there is no constitution which says so, what we know quite well is that we need to separate from Zimbabwe, because for all these years, it has been a marriage of convenience. We now want to divorce.
So let's look at the lockdown and COVID. There have been an increase in terms of COVID cases in Zimbabwe, and we've seen the number of deaths also rising. I mean, do you think the government of Zimbabwe is really ready to deal with the COVID situation in the country?
Again, it's a trick question that you have just asked me, Mr. Ndebele, because on the other hand, some of us view these cases as a way whereby the Zimbabwean government is politicking. On the other hand, allow me to say in courts, because you reckon that the numbers are now skyrocketing much in Bulawayo. And places like Harare have got lower numbers. And you reckon that when the COVID started, more interests, which included health support and financial support, was given to Harare more than to Bulawayo. And they will reckon that even when people die from South Africa and other places, those, bodies will be taken to Harare for confirmation whether this person died of COVID or not. And it took them some time to now start to concentrate on Bulawayo. And you reckon that when COVID started, there was point of saying, if ever there will be some COVID cases that are recorded in a country, these World Health Organization bodies and other countries will give some financial rewards in those affected. So we have always believed that yes, the COVID cases are increasing, that we cannot dispute, but probably the rate at which the government is reporting to say they are increasing, we feel that it's just a political gimmick, because to ZANU-PF, they know that this COVID lockdown is an advantage to them. Why? Because no one will ever put pressure to them to say they are failing to develop the economy for the people, because they will always say, how will we develop the economy when this thing is a world scourge? So in that regard, I'm simply saying we are highly affected as people of Mashonaland. You reckon that we also now have got a curfew. Some of us, when we see curfew, we quickly or vividly think of what happened in 1983 to 1987 when they imposed that curfew, when they were killing our people. And at the same time, we have seen these police officers and soldiers terrorizing our people again during this curfew.
So lastly, my question is, where do we see MRP 3 years from now?
I would say if it wasn't for COVID-19, I would be saying give us up to 2022. Because 21 and 22 should determine what MRP will be doing in 2023. I have always argued to say to people, no, don't ask me about 2023 elections, because these issues that we are trying to redress, we need to redress them before those elections. So to ask us about elections, while we have got a bigger mountain or a bigger elephant to challenge, whereby I'll be referring to say we have got quite a number of issues that needs to be tackled. We do not even need some elections. Like I have argued to say MTC have got parliamentarians, have got councillors. You are aware that MTC had even done Bulawayo, should I say, what I can say, a big embarrassment or something that has never been done in the history of Bulawayo, whereby they gave us 17 Shona councillors and the deputy mayor. I have always said that we have always had these parties having the MPs and councillors, but they have never solved any of these problems that affect our people. But MRP continues to shine even if they are not in parliament or in the chambers at the Bulawayo State Council.
You know, I wanted to close, but I will ask you one thing. I mean, throughout the interview and whenever someone asks, if you go to Harare and ask MRP, people say, no, those guys, they hate Shonas.
Yes.
I mean, my question to you is, do you hate Shona people?
Actually, MRP doesn't hate Shonas. What we are simply saying, we are fighting against Shona hegemony and Shona supremacy, which is being perpetrated against our people using the 1979 Grand Plan, which is the ZANU-PF Quran book, and of late the Code XXX by MTC. Actually, if these people don't hate us, it was one thing for sure. We haven't killed Shonas as they did to us during the Kukurawundi era. I have heard them lying, saying Zilikazi or Lopengula killed them and stole their cake together with their beautiful wives, and said, are these people sane? We know the types of head of cake that Shona people have. It's not even the same quality of the head of cake that we have. These hate a propaganda that they always talk about. If ever, I have even said, was the killing of us through Kukurawundi by them through love. Because you don't kill someone that you love. But they killed us. So we are simply trying to redress what they did. They then call ourselves or regard us as people who hate them. So in a nutshell, I would simply say, why should we hate people from Mashonaland? To us, we regard them as our neighbors. You cannot hate your neighbor. Instead, you can coexist with him or her. But okay, probably before you end, there's also something that I wanted to preempt, which also buttresses the point that indeed we are two separate countries. I will talk of the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, that is here in Bulawayo, and the Reserve Bank that is in Harare. It's a resemblance that indeed we are two separate countries. There are not two nations. There is no nation that can have two reserve banks. The issue of state houses, one at North Lee and the one in Harare. The issue of the high courts, ours is just unique. I mean, it resembles, I don't know what I can call it, that mark which resembles the seat of kings and queens. So all those features or all these governance structures that I've mentioned really prove a point that indeed we are two separate countries. And finally, even the issue I spoke about, the way how we were colonized, whereby Mashonaland was colonized in 1890. In 1930, the whites in Mashonaland celebrated what they called the 40 years of Mashonaland occupation. We have got that as evidence with us. And in 1933, starting from 1893, the whites here celebrated what they called 40 years of Material occupation. Why would the whites celebrate these occupations differently if indeed were two countries? And I think you are also aware that Mashonaland and Material were amalgamated in an only whites referendum which took place in 1992. 1923 without the consent of people of Mashonaland and people of Mthwakazi.
On that note, I would like to thank you very much for giving us this time to talk to you. Today in the program we were talking to the president of MRP, Mqondisi Moyo. We've heard a lot about MRP, lots of comments, we've seen their work, we've seen what people think or say about them, and aside, we believe that we need to give everyone an opportunity to talk about their activities. And in the past, we have talked almost to everyone. I think he's one of the last people that I've talked to, but I've talked to ZANU-PF, I've talked to all the MDCs, and I've talked to many other political parties. So I believe that in 2021, God willing, today is Wednesday, today is Thursday, every Thursday we will be bringing different political parties, political players to hear what they offer, and that's the 2-3 years before the elections, and Zimbabwe is always on election mode, but we want to know of all the political parties that are here what they have to offer, and of course at the end of the day it is up to the electorate to choose what they want to say. So you are free to go on our Facebook page, on our Twitter page, comment, disagree with us, that's the democracy, suggest people that we can talk to. All the comments are welcome. My name is Zenzele Ndebele. Until we meet again in other programs, have a good day.